What you're going to see now is the tank chat on the Valentine Archer. If you really enjoy tank chats, then why not subscribe to the Tank Museum channel and watch them all. It's well worth it. Thanks so much. Now this is the Archer. It's on the chassis of the Valentine tank, and it's a self-propelled anti-tank gun. As you can see, it's got a 17-pounder mounted here. Actually, you're looking at the back of it, just to confuse the issue, but the front's not terribly interesting anyway. The back's where the real business is done, where the gun is. It's about a 16-ton vehicle, and the bottom half is pure Valentine. It's running on a GM diesel engine with their type of steering system, with the external brakes, and with the Valentine suspension. So in that sense, it's a Valentine tank. But what they've done is asked Vickers Armstrong to produce an anti-tank vehicle, and they got this. In actual fact, the first of these anti-tank vehicles, they decided ought to be the Bishop remodeled. Now the Bishop was a self-propelled 25-pounder on the Valentine, horrible thing with a great box stuck on top of it, and they were going to put the 17-pounder in that, but they decided against it, and they let Vickers design it, and this is the result. And actually it's quite a good vehicle. The Royal Artillery didn't mind the fact that the gun was sticking out the back. It meant that they could park it up where they needed it, fire from this end at the tanks that were coming, and then clear off that way if they had to. And that's how it worked. But the Royal Armoured Corps, who took these things over later, were quite disgusted with the vehicle with the gun sticking out the back, but I'll tell you about that later on. So you're looking at it from the rear with the 17-pounder gun pointing forwards, and the gun's got a limited amount of traverse and elevation, but for any major turn you needed to engage the engine and the steering system. Now that meant, and this is against just about everything you'll read, that the driver had to stay in position. He had to be there, A, to adjust the tank if need be, if the target moved out of their vision, but also to drive the vehicle away if suddenly counter battery fire came down and they wanted to get out of it. And it would do that perfectly well. But the story is that the driver would be killed by the recoil from the gun. That isn't true. The gun's recoil was controlled by hydraulics and stopped well short of the gun at the driver's head, so he was okay. But he didn't get out. For one thing, he couldn't get back in again in a hurry, even though he'd be a fairly young man, because there's no doors. You climb over the side and in at the top. It's the only way to get into the vehicle. So normally the crew stayed inside. You had two working the gun, a gunner and loader, and a tank commander who might work from outside the tank when it's firing, or might work from inside as suited him, if he didn't get in the way. And that's a crew of 4 altogether, including the driver. It was the normal crew for one of these things. It had a reasonable top speed of about 30 miles an hour. Apparently it was very good across country and very good at climbing slopes, but not so good on the road. I think tanks had developed quite a lot since the Valentine, and the M10, which was the other vehicle we'll look at one day, the M10 could accelerate faster on the road and could operate quite well on the road, much better than the Valentine Archer, which was considered a bit slow as a highway vehicle, but across country it was excellent, and the crews liked it for that reason. Now, it has a completely open top fighting compartment. Now, strictly speaking, this shouldn't worry the Royal Artillery. They're used to serving guns in the open, and the fact that people shell them is part of the sort of the risk they have to take. But after a while, they began to complain that this vehicle didn't have good overhead protection. So some of the Archers later on were developed with an armoured cover over the top to stop shells and especially airbursts from pounding down on them. But I don't think it was ever used. It was put on as a feature, but they never actually used it. So that's as far as it goes. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please support us on Patreon. Subscribe to the channel as well if you can, but support us on Patreon, because the money we get from that helps us to keep these videos going, and that will be something worthwhile. Thanks so much.